Hi. This is something I like to do when I'm a bit stuck on a work in progress. I'm doing the New Orleans ghost story, which I'm really enjoying writing, but I think I'm enjoying it a little too much. I'm actually taking my time, and it's kind of annoying me now because it's been a few months, and I would like to get this book, at least the first draft, completed, and start thinking about how I'm going to edit that, get it to beta readers possibly, and think about which publisher I'm going to pitch it to. So what should we do as writers when you're in the middle of writing a work in progress? It could be a longer piece like a novel, which is what I'm doing, or it could just be a poem or a piece of flash fiction, something a bit shorter, but nonetheless, it's easy to feel somewhat overwhelmed. You know, you've done this work, you're enjoying it, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're really stuck and frustrated. I don't necessarily believe in writer's block, but I do get what that means when perhaps you get a little bored with that project and you're excited by possible other ones. But no, resist, ignore the other projects for now. You need to finish the one. This is what I've been doing today. I've been drawing a brick wall and banging my head against it, I think. But no. The reason I bring up my journal is take a sheet of paper, blank piece of paper, preferably not in a journal, actually. I'm going to rip it out. I'm going to have a completely free page just to get my thoughts out, and just a pen or a pencil. And I'm going to just write what happens. Just open up that document, have a look, remind yourself, get an overview, because I think sometimes if you're down in the weeds of the detail of the characterization, the dialogue, all the twists and turns that happen within each chapter, it's easy to kind of forget the overall narrative, that arrow that's firing to your ending. So I always start with the title, if I have one. Could be a working title, could change later. So this one is currently called Fear of Flying. And the reason why it's called Fear of Flying is because it's all about this concept that you need to travel, metaphorically or literally, get out of your comfort zone, get away perhaps from all the ideas you grew up with, even all the people who know you best and love you the most, and learn and discover and find out how you survive without your support network as well. That's definitely something that's resonated for me for the last few years. Because I've been doing a lot of travel to the US as part of my art and writing. The next thing I'm going to try and do is write the ending at the bottom of that page. I always recommend this. As early as you can, write the ending. Again, that could change as you go, but you know what you're aiming for. If you don't know what the ending is, personally, I just find all the rest of the writing is somewhat labored. So the ending of this, because this book is loosely based on the plot of Hamlet, the Shakespearean play. So we have a main character who's called Wayne, and he is a bit like the Hamlet character. He's rather indecisive. He is not sure whether he wants to throw his energies into being alive, having a relationship with his girlfriend in my book, and also in the original play is Ophelia, same name. Or he's not sure whether he thinks it's all just not worth it. He would rather, unalive himself or just drop out of life. Become depressed and inert and make no decisions. So that's his struggle. But a big part of his problem, Wayne, is that he is not sure whether his uncle actually murdered his father. And that is true to the original play of Hamlet. Those of you that know the play, Hamlet is visited by the ghost of his father, who is in no uncertain terms. He tells Hamlet, yes, I was murdered by your uncle, my brother. And my brother has now taken over my empire. He has become the king in my stead. He has taken my wife, which is Hamlet's mother. So I've got these themes in my ghost story, which is set in New Orleans, but it's not quite so straightforward as that. We're not sure whether Wayne's father has passed away. He seems to have died with a motorcycle accident. It seems to be an accident, but it's only Wayne who's questioning that. Wayne also feels he's the only person who thinks it's rather inappropriate and obscene almost that his mother, within a year of his father's death, his passing, has now become involved with his uncle, with her late husband's brother. And they're now having a relationship. Everybody else around Wayne, the Hamlet character, seems to be happy about this. They think, oh, it's great that his mother's found love again and she's got someone to support her. The fact that it's the brother of her late husband, nobody else seems to be concerned by this idea. So Wayne is not sure whether his uncle had something to do with his father's passing, and it bothers him. It preoccupies him. It becomes an obsession. And him wanting to trap his uncle and prove that he has done this terrible crime takes over Wayne's life to the extent that he alienates everybody around him, especially his mother and the main woman in his life, Ophelia. He can't decide whether or not to marry her. That's what she would like. They move to New Orleans together, but he feels until it's reconciled and he's actually claimed his inheritance, which has currently been stolen from him by his uncle, he feels he's not rich enough to marry Ophelia. So that is also something that stops him from taking action, and he is lost in his own negative and bitter thoughts, Wayne, and he feels somewhat emasculated. He's unable to assert himself as a person, as a young man. So the ending of this book is true to the original play, in which Hamlet himself does die. And because this is a ghost story, I want there to be a lot more to it. I don't want to give away too much because spoilers. I hope that you're going to read this book and buy this book when it's available. But it is a ghost story. So at the very beginning, we have this bar in New Orleans. We have an anonymous biker who is being told the story by Wayne of his life. Wayne does say that his wife, Ophelia, has died at the outset, so we know that's the case. So I know that the ending will be at this bar. Wayne finishes telling the story to the biker, so I'm going to put that down at the end. Bar scene, Hamlet / Wayne speaking to this biker, who we never learn his name, but he's standing for the reader, I guess. He is hearing this story and trying to make sense of it as Wayne is. So I've got a title and I've got an ending. Now I'm just going to put down, I personally use quite a basic structure for writing a novel. I just give it a nice even number of chapters, perhaps 36, for example, because that's a nice number that you can divide into 3 chunks easily. So I'm going to have 12 chapters for my beginning, which sets up a lot of the stuff. It lets you know what the characters are all about and what is normal life for them. Then the middle 12 chapters, we're going to have quite a lot of the action will take place. There will be a crisis. There will be inciting incidents. There will be all sorts of conflict, and there will be people blocking the main characters from achieving what they would like to, getting in the way of their goals. And then the final 12 chapters is the ending, and that's going to be tightly plotted. Remember that your readers mostly, they want to know what happens. I say this a lot, but I really believe in this. The main thing that people read books for, I would argue, is the plot. They may love your characters. They may think that you have the best dialogue. However, if you don't have loads of cool stuff happening, there's consequences for your characters, and that the reader is desperate to find out how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to resolve this? How are they going to overcome these challenges? If you don't have that meaty plot, personally, I feel that your book will be the less for it. So always prioritize plot if in doubt. So I'm just going to write that out. I've got my beginning. I have my middle. And I have my end. And each of those is going to be about 12 chapters long. So now I'm just going to list out those numbers. I'm going to give myself a numbered list, 1 through 12. I can't do maths, 13 through 24, and then finally 25 through 36 for each of those sections. And then just write down a fragment. Doesn't even need to be a sentence. What happens in this chapter? Who's there? You could have just a note of 1 or 2 of the most important people who feature, and where are they, and what happens. Do that regularly within the writing of your book, because if you're anything like me, when you go into the writing mode, you're very much in the right-hand side of your brain. That's how I think about it. So you're in that creative, almost like a dream state, which is wonderful. It's great to access that, whether you're a musician or a poet or an artist, to go into that point where you're just communing with yourself. Probably you're taking in all sorts of inspiration that you've brought, from your life thus far. You may be inspired by other writers, other artists. But to keep yourself a bit focused and logical, to give yourself a way through, just refer back to this. Incidentally, I cannot write this at the beginning. I have to say, I have to get started on the novel. I've written, I think, about 10,000 words already. So for me, I have to let the novel start to speak to me, get those characters interacting, hear their voices, see what their preoccupations and concerns are, and then I will plan. Now, not everybody works that way. There are some people far more organized than I, and they will start with a plan before they write a single word of this manuscript. But I just cannot do that. Also, see what you think about this. I always have to write the first draft longhand on paper or in journals. I cannot type it directly into a computer. I don't know why that is. It seems to block that right-hand side of the brain, that wonderful creative flow. I don't know if everybody feels that way. So for me, there's at least two distinct steps. I will free flow, throw it all down, write it with a pen on paper, get down that first draft, and you can have all of your mistakes. I do quite a lot of telling, not showing, I find. I write things down rather literally. I say, this person is bad, this person is good. And then the second process, the next step, is the editing, where I'm starting to refine and reorganize my material. It's at that point I'll take all of those written notes, type it all up on the computer, and as I go, I'm changing. And I do a lot more showing at that point, I notice. I may read back to myself, Wayne is indecisive. I wonder how I can illustrate that. I wonder if I can think of a scene where the stakes are high and yet he can't make a decision and there's a consequence for him for that. And that's where I do my showing, which is a lot more subtle. And then when I've done that second stage, I have a pretty good second draft. And then you've got a manuscript ready to do something with, which we will talk about at a later date.